Diego.
So good to see you too.
Oh my gosh, I've been super pumped and excited to get to meet you and connect with you and to dive into your world of wisdom. So really pumped for this one, and thanks for being so quick. It's been interesting, this whole series that I've been putting on, because a lot of people first time Instagram live, and it's been a struggle. So it wasn't at all today. I love that.
Yeah, I think it was a fluke that happened, but okay.
I love it. So what I just want to do, just to start off with, is just for anybody who's new to the series, just give them a quick introduction and then introduce you and dive into some amazing questions and wisdom and fun. So this series is the Self-Connection in Isolation series, and I've just been bringing amazing human beings who are doing beautiful work around the world, who are looking to contribute at the highest levels wherever they can, to kind of share their wisdom and their expertise through their lens of the world. And so today is no different. We've got another amazing human being joining us today, Diego Cassina. And so what I wanted to dive into is just let you guys know a little bit more about Diego. I've been following him for a number of years, actually, when I first started my online business. So it's been, I don't know when it was probably 2012 or 2013 is probably when I first came across your stuff. I think it would have been about then. He's one of the world's leading thought leaders on overcoming self-sabotage and helping entrepreneurs launch their businesses and develop an unstoppable work ethic, which is a little bit different to the work you were doing back then, which was still, I'm sure, so that's pretty cool. And your videos have reached over 6 million people in 110 countries. And you've had articles appear in Success Magazine, host of your own podcast, The Diego Show, lots of amazing cool stuff that I want to dive into with you. But my first question for you today is, what are you most grateful for in your life right now?
I think life in general. I mean, it's so vague, right? It's such like such a high level thing, but I think especially these days we realize how much of a gift that is. You know, we see the truth is it's a pretty difficult situation out there, and to be granted the gift of just waking up in the morning and even having a problem to focus on. I mean, it's like, man, thank goodness for that, you know? I think we really need to see like the small things. And I'd say it's the little things like the wind that'll go across, like that'll blow your hair in your face, you know, the flower that you pass every single day that you don't, smell. These things they're outside our awareness, and I think when we bring them into awareness, it kind of balances everything. It's, so I think it's the very smallest things that you can be grateful for, like give you even more incentive to be grateful for the big things, in my opinion. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I know you put out a post just the other day of just this beautiful, a beautiful short little video of the coastline where you are. Where was that? Yeah.
No, I'd like to be there now, but it's a little difficult to get there right now. So that's I posted a picture of one of my favorite spots in the entire world. It's called it's Hawaii. So it's it's an island off the coast, in the Hawaiian Islands. And it's a funny story. So I go there. I try to go there now once a year. But essentially when I go there, the terrain is gorgeous. There's this one beach that's remote. It's difficult to get to, but once you get there, you can set up camp. You could be there for a couple days to yourself. And so I remember, I would go there and nothing would change in the environment. And so it's a perfect place for me to kind of reassess my life, because I can think to myself, well, what's actually changed without I'm feeling any change is in fact me, not the environment, because the environment is the exact same. It's unspoiled by man, really. And I remember I'd been there after like a pretty unsettling relationship, and I remember I was leaving and I saw some guy who was in his truck at that time, and he's just telling me, he's like, I told him, I came here to really find myself. And he goes, well, you picked the spot because this is the most remote island among all the Hawaiian islands, and they're the most remote chain of islands in the whole entire world. And on top of that, this is the most remote beach. And so he just kept going with it. I was like, oh man. Yeah, it's really gorgeous there.
Wow, that's amazing. And yeah, like I'm back in Melbourne right now. Have you been to Australia before?
Not yet. I've been
Not
planning on
yet.
it originally because I have a huge audience in actually in
Yeah.
Australia, but no, I've never been yet.
Ah, you'll have to come down and
Yeah.
yeah, I was living up north in a beautiful part of the world called Noosa. And it's got gorgeous beaches and rainforests and it's just spectacular. But I had to move back down to Melbourne. It's currently raining, storming, freezing outside right down south in Australia. And I'm like, oh, I saw your picture on Instagram. I was like, oh, take me back. I miss Noosa. So highly
Yeah.
recommend it when you come to Australia for
Oh,
your first time,
absolutely.
whenever that is.
Absolutely.
So before we get into some more of the deep dive questions, I'd love for you to just share with people just a little bit more about what the work that you do is and why it inspires you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's and thanks for the question. I mean, it's a multifold question, right?
Yeah.
So I think about it in terms of my mission and also what the vision is, you know. And so my mission, well, people have seen me initially online because I would teach people. At first, it was relationship advice, you know, because
Yeah.
it was a thing that
That's when I
I
knew you.
always, yeah, and I'm sure, yeah, it's like so many people saw me for that,
Yeah.
and they have their questions in that, and then, but in honesty, like when I was working with people individually on one-on-one, it was more so like aligned with purpose, like finding people's purpose, and then I realized, well, I don't want to be the 80-year-old guy that's teaching, you know, people how to text somebody that isn't texting them back. And so for me personally, I was like, all right, okay, can I maybe pivot after this and then find something that's really more unique or more true to like what I actually coach in my coaching practice? And so then I settled on really on self-love. And so for me, self-love is like, yeah, it can be applied in relationships, it can be applied in your health, it can be applied in your wealth, it can be applied across your entire spectrum of life. It's so important. And I started delving a little bit deeper, and I thought, well, what about that really fascinates me or interests me? And what I realized is, I mean, I don't know about your audience or you, but I can speak for myself. So much of my life was, and at times still is, this need for approval, right, or acceptance, or the need to be loved, like by somebody that either I've had in my past, or I wanted, or is in my life, or I'd like to be in my life. So all that stuff, you know, teachers, gurus, and so for me, it was really what I really embedded in my program, in my courses, and everything that I ever taught was how do you overcome the need for that acceptance and approval? Because otherwise, you're going to be living somebody else's life. In fact, it's the number one regret of the dying is I wish I was living a life true to myself and not somebody else. And so that's the real mission. And so I embed that in every program, in every course, in every coaching call. And so I've shifted then to say, okay, well, how do I help people develop the lifestyle that they'd like to have? And I realized one of the best ways is in reality to help them build a business that they can be free, make the money, not just for themselves, but although that's great, but for also to help other people. And in so doing, you know, release the program and become who they truly always were, always are.
Oh my gosh, I love so much of what you just laid down and I resonate totally with it. It's almost like we've had quite similar journeys. And I almost laughed a little bit when you mentioned the number one regret of the dying, because everybody in my audience has heard me bang on about that so many times, because it was what allowed me to get off the path of becoming a lawyer and actually discover what I was passionate about. And I started, like you, in the realm of relationships. And you probably don't remember, but a few years ago when I was first starting out, my ex-partner who I was in business with, we actually did interview you on our podcast.
I do remember.
Cool. Okay. I wasn't sure. But yeah, the Relationship Revolution show. So now I, as I got to be more aware of who I am and what it was that I wanted in this world, I realized the relationship, the business as it was, just wasn't in alignment with where I wanted to go. And making that shift, you know, the number one regret of the dying, like whose life are you living? You know, I wish I had have had the courage to live a life true to myself rather than one I felt was expected of me. It's the basis of what I do. And what you mentioned there was really key. In terms of, well, you can help people, you can give people all these tips and tools around relationship, but if they don't have that self-love, you know, that core relationship with themselves that they take everywhere into all aspects of their lives, then, you know, at the end of the day, like it doesn't matter what tools you give them, strategies, they're not going to be able to receive that from their partner. There's all these different things. So to go in the other direction of helping that person become their best self, and I love how you take that into the business realm. You know, how do you discover your passion, your purpose, and, you know, deliver that in such a way that you get to create the lifestyle of your dreams. So really inspiring there. And I wonder if you could share, you know, through this amazing lens and experience that you personally have, how are you viewing this particular time in our lives right now? Like looking at the pandemic, like how are you viewing it through that lens?
I mean, it really depends day to day, to be honest. It's like some days, to be very honest, there's some days where I'm crushing it, you know, and I'm working, you know, this 16-hour days. You know, I think I put in about 30 hours in 3 days over the last couple 3 days, right? So, so yeah, there is that. I find that I have been doing a lot in terms of finding that which I want to create and then sticking to it. And then in the moments that, of course, I go sideways, I go, oh, wait, like, what do I want to create? Okay, let me go back, right? And so I think that's really it, is like not beating myself up for like not playing at 100 million% every single day, but just realizing, you know, there was a really good quote that I'm going to mess it up because I don't remember it fully, but it goes something like this, like, you're under no obligation to know how to respond in a situation that you've never been confronted with. You know, and I think so many of us are in a situation that we really haven't been confronted with it. You know, and so what I really think about here is like, well, how can I stick to my purpose, right? And in those moments that I don't necessarily go the way that I want it to go, then how can I be kind to myself? You know, we live in a world where there's the highlight reel all the time online. And this is one thing that just hit me last night. And I haven't really completely formulated the thought, but I've realized, you know, among this, like what it's really, really taught me is just a desire to like connect with people. And what I mean by connect is like, I really can't wait to just hug somebody. Like, I really can't wait to just kiss somebody, right? I really can't wait to just shake somebody's hand or high five them. Because I realize, like, I think for so many of us, especially those of us who might be online entrepreneurs, or those of us, not just online entrepreneurs, right? Anybody who has access to a camera these days, which is everybody with their iPhone, is we go online, you know? And so we have this conversation with a person, and we have these video calls, and it's great, right? And so I've been thinking about that a little bit to say, well, you know, that's kind of how I've been living my life to some degree. And then I thought about it more, and I said, well, I mean, it's never going to like substitute real connection. You know, if anything, it'll just supplement it. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to supplement, you know, the absence that might be going on in these days. But I know it's going to come back, and when it does, I'm going to just, I can't wait to just connect with people and realize, you know, I don't need to come on this like online to present to the world and to do that in order to find love. It's like, no, there's love right next to you. There's friendship right next to you. There's happiness right next to you. And I think it's really given me the opportunity or the awareness to say, wow, you know what? That's real. And then I can substitute this, my vicinity, with, you know, sharing my world online, as opposed to saying, no, I'm the online guy, and then, you know, like dismissing the people that are in my life. So I think it's given me that little realization.
Oh my gosh, like when you said I can't wait to hug somebody, I like my eyes, just kind of teared up a little bit, because it was just like the excitement of just having that thing that we've taken for granted for so long. And I'm like you know, I run an online business, so I spend a lot of time. My life hasn't changed all that much, you know, except for the craziness down the supermarket or whatever. But I've actually been in this huge house that I'm in right now, in the family home, all by myself for 4 weeks, over 4 weeks now. And I made the last minute decision to move from Noosa because they were closing the borders, didn't want to get stuck up there. And I'm really feeling a sense of just, that human connection. even though, you know, getting to have a conversation with somebody such as yourself right now, that's very enlivening to my soul. But yeah, you're exactly right. It's a substitute. You know, it's not to cover it up for good. And it is a wake up call, I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs who work online to go, oh, hang on a minute here. Like, oh yeah, don't, you know, I do appreciate the other elements. So really cool to hear. Awesome. All right, love it. And also, what I wanted to ask you is, you know, during this time, and like what we're talking about, there can be this, you know, this disconnect from our external world, or, you know, some of us are, you know, thrown back into the home with our families and nobody's working and we're all kind of together, and maybe losing that connection with ourselves, either with people or without them. I wanted to ask you, you know, what is your best strategy for helping people to, or for yourself, you know, to reconnect and create, you know, internal stability in a time when we may have this external chaos or this sense of disconnection? So what would you suggest people could be doing right now?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, one thing is kind of going to what you were saying, is creating the internal stability as opposed to waiting for the external stability to find you. You know, and so what I realized in one of the moments that I've had in my life that was super chaotic, like just filled with anxiety and depression, one of the things that really helped ground me was, I don't know if you've ever seen any of her content. Her name is Amy Cuddy. So she wrote a book, an excellent book, Presence.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah,
she's outstanding. You know, she has one of the greatest TED Talks, and in that TED Talk, she speaks about the power pose, which I'm sure we've all seen it. We know it to some degree, right? It's the person that puts their fists on their hips, chest up, you know, looking out. And what I find fascinating, and I teach this in one of my programs, Self-Love Mastery, but I teach it to individuals, is in that moment that I was in that chaos, in that overwhelm of life, what I realized was my mind was going south, literally. I mean, some people go south with their mind every 5 minutes, maybe it might be every 5 hours. And for me, it was once every 2 minutes. And that's a lot to deal with, you know, and I might even be exaggerating. It might even be, or, you know, not exaggerating. I think it might have been once every minute. And so in that place where I literally had I had no clue what to do. I remember reading her topic there, and she spoke about just how important that is in terms of combating anxiety. And what she says is, like, what I found fascinating is, you know, what they do to kind of get a person into a powerful position, like mentally, and what they do for a person to get into a powerless position mentally and then test them for a particular psychological study is they prime them. Right? And so what they're essentially doing is they say, okay, I want you to read this particular paragraph, and in this paragraph, I want you to draw yourself into the character. And that character is a person that is a CEO, they're a founder, they're a person that is a king, or they're a queen, or a person that just has power and courage and confidence, and then they do the same with other individuals that they want to feel less than, right? And what they do is they teach them with something very opposite that puts them in a disempowered state. And so as I started reading a little bit further, you know, not just what she was saying, but a lot of other stuff that I was looking at, I realized, okay, I can combine this power pose, and then I could combine it with one thing that one study I found as well was you have, you can basically get somebody to that really outstanding place by just reminding them who they are, what they're passionate about. So you can say, you know, maybe for you, it's online entrepreneur, it's creator, it's cultivator, it's connector, you know, maybe for another individual, it's like the poet, you know, the reciter, so it really depends. And so what I do is I combine that power pose for 2 minutes, and then on top of it, what I layer on is just a string of words. I mean, if you think about those moments that we feel really powerless, we tend to be saying something to ourselves, right? You can't do it. You'll never enough. Like, you always mess up. You'll always be this way. And, you know, that's definitely going to get a result for you. But then, so what I decided to do is I literally just rewired my brain in those moments. And so I put the power pose on, and the point when I felt most anxious, I remember I was doing this on subway platforms. I just put my hands behind my back, so people thought I was waiting in a very, you know, very like nightly way. And then I would just recite these words to myself for 2 minutes, and I can't tell you how amazing I felt 2 minutes later. Literally 2 minutes from complete exhaustion, anxiety, just depression, to feeling energetic, empowered, and just deciding where I wanted to go with my life. And all it took was 2 minutes. You know, so you can do that. You can disguise it the way I would. I mean, I remember doing it at work where I would put my hands behind my back, you know, but obviously we're all working from home these days. You could do it and you could do it at your in the shower, you know, just stand up with your with your arms up. You could do all sorts of things like that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that you brought that to the equation, because a lot of people, you know, will talk about, we'll get into meditation, and that's something that we kind of get, and we know that we can do that. But I really love that you brought into the equation, like changing your physiology, you know, and, you know, for people to really take that on board, something so simple, to just spend 2 minutes to change your physiology, to even, no matter how anxious or whatever the state of being that you are, you know, to change that, to know that if you change your body and you change the thought pattern, you know, you can erupt into something much more empowering within such a short period of time. You know, for me personally, it's all about, you know, some music or like singing or, you know, and I love, that's one thing I do like about being home alone by myself right now. I'll just like break into song, like down, walk into the kitchen or something, you know, because it changes your state, and it enlivens you, and also gets you out of the overthinking or whatever, you know, allows you to shift gears in whatever you're doing. So that's so powerful.
Yeah, I'll dance from time to time here, and what I mean, to be honest, I've done that my entire life. I've always been an electronic music junkie, so I'll just dance down. Yeah, it looks like a nightclub here. One thing also, and one thing that you mentioned there is, you know, the way I think about it, and this is something that really impacted my life immensely, you know, is I don't necessarily see it as I am doing things to become empowered as much as I believe, and I really, really believe this, I believe that we are empowered. You know, it's kind of like clarity. You know, a lot of times people will come to me with this big question. They say, oh, I don't know how to find my purpose in life. I don't have clarity. And the truth is, like, no, you do have clarity, right? So if we were to think about it right now, what's going on in the COVID crisis? We have, all of a sudden now, for the first time, there's less pollution, and we're able to see the Himalayas from 40 miles away. You know, I think Los Angeles posted the best time that they've ever had in terms of lowered smog since, I think, 1993 or something like that. And so if you think about it, it's like, no, clarity is the natural state of the universe. It's just there's obstacles that get in the way, right? And so when we get into those places where we feel powerful, my honest feeling, my honest thought about that is that that's who we are. And you were just trained to act differently. Trained by who we were supposed to be, on what we were supposed to do for a job, on who we were supposed to like, you know, on what we're supposed to look like or feel like. And I think when we release that to actually liberate ourselves, we can actually transform and then integrate as who we always were.
Oh my gosh, you blew my mind just then. I love that clarity is our natural state. And I really love that you brought, the environment into it, because that's absolutely what we're seeing. You know, the environment is better than ever right now, with us, you know, coming out of just, you know, the habitual patterns that we run each and every day, and don't see the damage that we're doing, or don't see, you know, the chaos or the smog that we're creating, blinding us from actually what matters. So I think that in itself alerted us, or woke us all up to our own empowerment, by just knowing that clarity is your natural state. So thank you so much for sharing that. I love that.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So cool. So cool. And it actually is a great segue into the next question that I have for you, because it's all about clarity. Okay. So as we know, you know, who is it? Is it Tony Robbins who says the quality of your questions determines the quality of your life, right? So I would love for you to share with us, you know, a powerful question that we could all be asking and answering for ourselves right now, that would allow us to get connected to something, you know, that's going to pull us through this time, rather than get trapped in the chaos and the smog.
Sure. I mean, for me, one of the questions that I ask myself continually, and at times it becomes an obsession, and I'll say when it has been an obsession, it's actually made my life even more, is I ask myself how I can become even more energetic, empowered, productive, and happy. And what it is what I mean by that is, and I have a way to kind of gear somebody into that particular mindset that really helps me. And I've helped people with that particular mindset since I speak to self-sabotage. But what I'm really speaking about there are the character traits that are unique to me. And so I think it's important for us to find clarity, right? Or actually to just, unveil it, to reveal it. I think it's really important for us to just distinguish what our character traits really are. So much of our life is we just we float, we're just debris on the ocean of life. And I think we can really define ourselves. And we choose to define ourselves. The definition is one of the most important things possible. I mean, I can tell you this specifically because years ago, I was an alcoholic. And I say was past tense because I overcame it. I literally have no interest in it. There were moments when somebody would accidentally give me a drink at the bar because I mixed it up with theirs. I put it in my mouth and I'm like, I can tell you, girls that I dated that they're like, really? Because I spit it out and I'm like, give me a napkin. And so what it is like, it's the identity. And the identity for ourselves is so important. It's basically what holds us down and makes us stable. And so if you think you're crazy, well, you are, right? And then if you think you're sane, well, you are, right? And so the same thing goes with any area of our life. If we're like, okay, well, what really makes me excited or happy is, let's say it's, well, I like being humorous. I like connecting with individuals, and so I'm the connector, right? Or I'm the great builder, right? And so whatever that is for you is think about that and then reinforce it every single day. So that way, when those little things that come in life that try to divert your attention sideways, which is going to happen all the time, you turn on the news, it'll happen. You can remember to yourself, oh no, this is who I am. One of the ways that I've done this, if you want a really simple one, if you don't necessarily know, is most people wait until the end of their day to decide that they've had a great day. They wait till everything happens and then they go, yeah, that was a great day, or it wasn't a great day. As opposed to deciding it before the day even began. You get up and you go, today's going to be a great day. And you commit to it. Now, obviously, there's going to be moments where they're going to go sideways. And you're not going to be able to handle every situation perfectly, But by and large, you're going to have a distinction that's going to help you in those moments that previously would have unraveled you. And I think that'll give us a lot more of the clarity that we so much are.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. And yeah, I love hearing you say that it's about that identity and defining what that is, being intentional about, what matters to us, maybe creating a set of character traits that are connected totally to what you value, what you've taken the time. And now more than ever is a time where we've got a bit more time up our sleeves to be able to put towards defining what actually matters. Now that, the veil is taken off, and we have this set of clarity and we just relax into that and think about, okay, life as I've known it has just changed, not only for myself, for every single human being on this globe. So, now more than ever is a time where we can wipe the slate clean and, come up with clarity about the future that we want to create and get intentional and define it and align with it. And I actually just had with one of my coaches yesterday, had a session, and my focus right now is just kind of using integrity to as almost like the watcher for everything that I do, and asking, and being intentional about like, well, is this thing that I'm going to do, is that in integrity? Is integrity's watching right now? Like, is this in alignment with those character traits or those values or my identity of who I want to be or who I know myself to be, my best self to step forward with? Or is it not, and it's, having that kind of watcher in your life. It's a different way of living when we become conscious and we set those intentions and we define what we're working towards. So awesome share that so many people will get tons of value from.
Yeah. Love it. Absolutely. And thank you for that. That's actually a really good one.
Yeah, cool. I love it. And then also what I wanted to ask you about, because a lot of us in these times can just, fall to the wayside. Maybe we're confused about what we're doing. Maybe we're just going into the comfort zone. Maybe we're just sitting on the couch watching all the Netflix possible that we can get under the belt, whatever we're doing. I feel like it's quite an important time right now to keep challenging ourselves in healthy ways. So my question for you is, what empowering or inspiring challenge would you set for each and every one of us to do right now, that we could get done today to ensure that we're continuing to be empowered through this time?
Empowered in what sense? Empowered in the sense of like your productivity and to move on the things that are important to you, or?
I'm going to let you decide. I'm going to let you decide in terms of what you feel through your lens and your expertise would be a good challenge for us.
Absolutely. So, I mean, so many people, and I say so many people as if I'm not involved in that group. You know, we all, we all have these dreams for ourselves. And at times what happens is when we're pursuing that dream, we go sideways, right? We start watching the Netflix, as you say, or maybe, we end up cleaning the desk and focusing on cleaning the desk, and then you clean the room, and then all of a sudden you realize, well, you never put out that thing that you said that you wanted to put out, maybe you find another thing, like maybe it's your health, and you just keep going for that cheat meal. And so what I realized is, and I actually just recently I created an ebook where I really like detail this all out, and this is really about sabotage. And so one of the chapters in that particular ebook is I speak about kind of, if you think about it this way, right, is you're working on this particular project and then you go sideways, right? So maybe it's the binge watching, everything that you can on the Tiger King, right? We've all done it, at least I have. And so, that really gives you an insight, right? It gives you awareness. You go, okay, this is one of the ways in which I sabotage, right? And so what I realize is that there's this goal that you have, right? And then it's out there in the future. And what happens is that as we're going toward that, all of a sudden we go sideways. It's almost as if there's an invisible force field right in front of that goal, and then it's always out there in front of you, always out there uncompleted. And so what I think about when I think about that is that really in those moments, it's that I have been trained somehow, subconsciously, years ago by people that I sought the acceptance of and the approval of, people that I really cared for in my life, people that taught me that, well, you can't have a business, you have to go to school, sit down, work 9 to 5. And I'm just using an example, right? This could be anything. Some people have this relationships, right? It's like they want the great relationship, but then they keep chasing the person that's unavailable. So there's all these different things that happen for people when they hit that invisible force field. And so when I find that happening to me, is I think to myself, am I being myself? Am I being empowered? Am I being energized? Am I being productive? Am I being happy? Those are mine. It could be somebody else, something else for you or another individual. But in that moment, I think to myself, am I being me, or am I just doing what I've been trained to do? And I don't have to sit on a couch for 30 years in order to find out who trained that in me. I just realized, that's somebody else's life. And I don't need to live that life today. And I might do it imperfectly, and that's okay. I think of those moments when we go sideways, it's really important for us to think about that goal that we have and really just say to ourselves, I deserve success. And to make that almost like a mantra, because in those moments, basically what you're doing is you're reformulating what your internal mechanism is on that goal, right? Because you've been taught so often, oh, well, you know what, that particular goal is not something that I deserve. And you know this subconsciously, but not consciously. And so in those moments, when you find that sabotage kick in, it's a moment for you to reinforce the belief system of who you actually are and think to yourself, no, I deserve that goal. I deserve that great relationship. And I think in those moments, then we can get back on track. A missile is off target 95% of the time, a heat-seeking missile, but it still hits the target. And so rather than beating ourselves up, I think it's so important just to know how to get back on track, and I think that awareness gives us a great clarity that we've already discussed so deeply.
Boom. Oh my gosh, I really, really, really loved your analogy on that. That gave me such a good visual in terms of the force field, because it is, I was just speaking to a really beautiful woman yesterday, and she's really starting to move towards her purpose, like understanding what that is and how she wants to contribute to the world. But then she started to make some traction, hit the force field, and it's kind of bounced back. And a lot of times we hit that force field and we get put on our butts, and then we're like, ouch, that hurt. Like, do I want to do that? But what I love about what you've just shared is, no, you hit the force field. That's not a time for you to go give up and go, oh, maybe I was I wasn't on target there. Maybe it's just a time to go check in and then define, is that a pathway that is actually true to who I am? Or did somebody else decide for me, and, subconsciously I've just been going in this direction because I thought that's what I needed to do. I'm a great example of that,
Yeah.
I'm the opposite to a lawyer, but I was becoming a lawyer, and spent majority of my life lived to the expectations of others to get that approval, not even knowing that. And when we live like that, we're completely unclear about who we are. We feel lost. We don't have that identity. And so what you're saying is, it might be a time you hit a force field. It might be actually really valuable for you to go, maybe that wasn't the path. Let me check in and see who I am. Let me check in and align with that. And is it in alignment with the truth of who I am? Or is there something else that I need to shift gears toward and not hold on so strongly to the disapproval that I may get as a result for just showing up and being me? So really loving it. Yeah.
And to speak to that disapproval that you mentioned there is, what I realize in my life is, it's a quote that I keep near and dear to me, especially because, if we're being honest, how often have you stood up for yourself or maybe voiced your opinion, and what you received wasn't necessarily all the approval and the gung-ho, hey, you're awesome, we love that. Sometimes people will, they criticize you, they're not down with what you just said, And what I think about that is, I think back to our time in tribes. We really have a tribal architecture up here. We believe that we've super evolved, but we still have a 2 million year old brain. If a branch were to fall from a tree, I would jump the same as if it was a stick. And so, in fact, this has been proven. There's a thing called Dunbar's number, and I find it fascinating. Dunbar's number is 150 to 175, 190 on the top end, and basically it says you have about 150 to 190 people that you really associate with deeply. And so those people nowadays, when everything's online, can be people you've never even met before, and so these are the people that are somehow in your tribe, and so what happens is, back then, if you were to stand up for yourself, well, there was somebody that was in charge, and if you were to go against what that person said, that could be your head. It's like, hey, I don't believe in the sun god, is like, off with your head, and so And so that fear of rejection and the fear of not meeting somebody else's approval, it's embedded, And so what I realize is, when you do stand up for yourself, if we've ever looked at any moment in our life when we've done that, I realize that power and true power is first tested and then it's trusted, And so when I stand up and somebody's like, no, I don't believe in you, I don't believe that, blah, 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 whatever, right? And it's fine. They can voice their opinion. I love them for who they are. Right? For not necessarily for their opinion, but for who they are. And so in that moment, I can think to myself, do I want to go back down and not be who I was always meant to be? Or am I okay with accepting this little challenge right now? And in that moment, it's like, okay, I'm going to get tested. But pretty soon, all of a sudden they go, you know what? I knew you could do it. I always believed in you. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. But I think that's important, to really step up as a leader and to do it from a very loving place.
Oh, and I really love how you articulated that. So you gave me language to something that I know is very important to me as well. And, when I decided not to do what I was doing, cut that path short, I was definitely tested. I mean, my family completely disowned me, disconnected from me, all sorts of things. And then over time, because making the decision to get off the wrong path and discover what the right path was, that was the most certainty I've ever had within myself, because I was finally being myself. And so when you get to that point that we're all so terrified of getting to because of this tribal mentality and, the disapproval, the funny thing is that you finally become the person who can handle, you might not like it, but you can handle it because you can see it for other people's fears, and you no longer take it as a personal attack, because you finally know you're more connected to actually who you are. So to know that you can be tested, great leaders are going to be tested and then finally trusted. My family are my biggest supporters now. Like my mum, she you know, does some things in my business for me and stuff, you know, and she's always over everything, but she was the one who totally disconnected from me at the beginning. So I really resonate on a personal level with what you just shared right then. And I think that it's everybody listening to this is going to get so much empowerment in if they're in a time where they're, okay, I've got this thing that I'm actually inspired by, but I'm terrified to move in the direction of it because what's everybody going to say? To just know, get connected to who you are, get connected to what inspires you, move in that direction, and just know that when you're that person moving forward with courage, you know, the people who might criticize you, you know, don't worry about them. Like it's not going to be personal. And, you know, like you said earlier, whose life are you living? Are you going to live your own life or theirs? You know, so
yeah,
awesome.
I resonate a lot, especially because it seems like you're very good at the transition, you know, as you mentioned before, going from being a lawyer to then going online, and then obviously you had a business partner previously and a different crafted message, and then now it's a different one. And it's like, I think you as well as I think the really strong point here is one that I need to listen to as well as anybody else. I think is it's okay. Is like, that's how you know you're in the transition period, is in that moment when you're like, well, you know, am I going to alienate the people that already know me and they know me as this? And it's like, if the truth is, like, we all have transition in our life. We transition from high school to college, or college to the working world, or the working world to entrepreneurship, or maybe it's just, you know, from one relationship to the next. And so, you know, I think in those moments we are going to question, like, are we doing the right thing? You know, is this okay? You know, and I think in those moments especially, it's so important to reach out to, you know, a core group of friends, or even just people that will hold you accountable to be who you are, right? Because in those moments, you know, it's like there's so much uncertainty and we're looking for authority anywhere. And it's really important to find authority figures that really want the best for you, not necessarily for just their own pocket, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, and you're speaking into something that I've had to wake up massively over the last 6 months. Kind of my idealistic bubble was burst, and kind of had to go way over the other side to be able to bring myself back into balance in realism. You know, not idealism, which is my natural tendency and it feels all good, you know, being up in the soft, cushy clouds like that. But also not going into total skepticism, you know, but actually looking at things as they actually are in realism. I'm not there yet. I'm on the journey with that one. But something that you said in terms of the transition, we've got a little bit of time to do this. I know Instagram Live chucks us off at the 60-minute mark, so I'm going to be conscious of our time, but I really wanted to ask you, because I know, you know, when I first came across your work and you were really into the relationship, it was all love and relationship and, yeah, the self-love. And I really wanted to ask you, how was that transition for you? You know, because to be able to go from, you know, this section, and I know that you would have all of it. It's all encapsulated in who you are and the work that you do. But how was that transition? How did you navigate that? In terms of how did you discover you wanted to have that transition, and how did you kind of cope with or what was the response from your external world as well?
You know, I think there was a saying that you can only connect the dots going forward or looking backward, but you can only live life going forward. I think it was Steve Jobs that said that. And the truth is, horribly. Like I transitioned horribly. It wasn't a great thing at all, you know. And I'll admit, you know, being honest, like I'm still going through that transition because I realize I've developed such a large audience in terms of, well, they know me as the guy that has always helped them in their relationship, you know, foibles and then also self-love, right? And self-love is really linked more toward it, kind of, you know, it bends more toward relationship. And so it was like, that was the guy that I was. And so when I said, okay, well, like, what is it? You know, I went through a huge, like, purpose exercise. You know, I purchased somebody's program, and I was like, oh, my God, like, I really realized that I internally, I really help people overcome their need for acceptance and approval. And then as I continued to go further, it was like, entrepreneurship thing came up. And then I realized so much of my coaching was helping people find their purpose. So many of the people that I was working with were like, they were transitioning career, or they wanted to start a business or grow a business. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the people that, but you're blind to it because you're like, well, this is who I am. but this is the people that I help, you know, and this is who I am. And then you realize like, well, no, I actually like, I love that. And I'm part of that audience as well. And so, you know, I realized there was a really great quote. I remember when I was in you know, the ups and downs of a relationship that wasn't really working for me. I was looking online, you know, as we all do. You're looking through every YouTube video and every training program that you can find. And I came across a very good quote that just reminded itself to me now. And it was, there's no Olympics for being able to let go perfectly. Like, there's no gold medal that you're ever going to get for being able to let go perfectly, you know? And so, you know, we like to believe that's the case. You know, you see that online, people break up, and then all of a sudden somebody's like, yeah, free. It's like, but in reality, you know, on the side, you're crying a little bit. That's like, I don't want to post that, you know, 'cause that's too vulnerable. But the honest truth is, like, that place when you're going through the transition period, whether it be a relationship or it be your business or be anything else in life, a health scare, whatever it might be, when you're in that transition, it's scary. You know, and I think that in and of itself is a good point, because many people will be in that place and feel like, oh, I shouldn't be like this scared, or I need to know what the next step is. And it's like, no, it's okay for it to happen slowly. You don't need to rush and get there today. You know, you'll get going. You'll find your sixth gear. But if you're ever in a car that's ever had that many gears, you know as well as I, if you try to start on sixth gear, you're gonna stall out. Right? And you have to start in first gear in order to finally get to sixth gear. So be okay with the point that you're like, I'm only gonna, you know, I'm gonna start this, and maybe not many people are cool with that. And you know what? That's fine. As I continue to speak, I'm gonna find a new audience, a new tribe.
I love that. And also, you're a leader. You're role modeling what it looks like to transition, to stay in alignment, to get clearer and clearer, you know, on who you are, on what you're looking to create, on what sort of impact you're looking to make. It's kind of in alignment. I was having this discussion with my audience a few days ago around, and with my group coaching clients, actually, it came up, and then I did a Facebook Live on it, but it was around the concept of authenticity. And what I just heard you say then, like making that transition, it's, I'm talking about like self-centered authenticity, where we're like, this is who I am and this is how I show up. I don't care how it's received. I don't care what impact I make in the external world. This is who I am. That's where I'm coming from. And it's kind of like we can get stuck in that. Like, okay, well, this is who I am and this is what I want to do. So this is how I'm going to create in the world. Versus the next stage of development is kind of more this intentional authenticity, which is, you know, this intentional authenticity is, hang on a minute, okay, this is who I am, you know, but what is my ultimate outcome here? What's my authentic outcome that's totally in alignment with who I am, what I'm looking to create? And then from that way, you kind of tailor what you do, not out of integrity with who you are, but in integrity with your intentions. And that sounds like the transition that you've had, like going from, you know, okay, this is who I am, and I love self-love and I love relationships, but then actually taking a step back and then going, actually, let's look at who these people are and how I really want to impact them and how I can see, you know, where I can take them. And it's like, it's not that it's not authentic, it's actually a new level of development of your authenticity by attaching it to intention in the future and what you're looking to create. So really love that. I don't know if that resonated with you, but I like talking out these funny concepts.
No, I love it. I love it because I really like the idea of the outcome, right? And then to move toward that outcome, right? So, I mean, for me, as I was mentioning before, the mission is to help people overcome their need for acceptance. Is like, and then the vehicle through which I get to that outcome is, well, yeah, it's business, and it's helping somebody, you know, find that financial freedom or just create something for themselves, you know, even if it isn't financial freedom, it's something as a side hustle. But it's like, that is so cool to me, you know, and yeah, but the outcome was the first like epiphany, and then after that was like, okay, well then how am I going to find that, you know? So yeah, and you know, being okay to be like, okay, well I know all the other stuff, so I'm free to like build upon some of the things that I've talked about in the past, and you know, trying to help people get to that well-balanced life, you know. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I love that. You know, and I totally resonate, because when I was doing specifically relationship coaching, you know, I was doing that with my ex-partner. So we were doing all our coaching together. And then, you know, to be a relationship coach whose relationship breaks down, ends in the public eye, and then you have to go your separate ways. And it's like, you know, well, okay, external world might hit you with some challenge. But, you know, I'm a big believer in having, you know, in some area, you're going to have chaos. Do you want it internally? Do you want it externally? You know, I'd rather have that inner peace, you know, that, you know, might sometimes create some chaos in my external world, you know, but, you know, you can either have that internal chaos or internal peace, you know. So I love that. And I love how you've made the transition, and you're continuing to do the work that you're doing despite the challenges at hand, or, you know, make the face of those. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, thank you. I'm receiving that. Thank you.
Love it, love it, love it. So before I really want to, for you, if you could, I'll just scroll back through and just see if we got any comments here. I know a few popped up,
Sure.
but would you like to, just while I do that quickly, just share with people where they can find more of your work and what you're doing, and connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there's one of the websites that you can go to is diegocassina.com. And in fact, if you go there, I have a freebie that I give you right away, which is a little ebook that I created, which is the 7 Secrets of the Highly Successful. It's something that I basically just like broke down what the highly successful people are actually doing. And in fact, I did it for myself. In fact, I didn't publish it for, I don't know how long, maybe over a year. And then, you know, I remember I reopened it. I was like, I should edit this. And I started looking at it. I was like, this is actually really good. I was pretty on point when I wrote this. So I have that available for people there. And for those of you that are maybe wanting to start a business, or you have a business, or you want to get something involved in there, but you find that you just can't finish what you start. You find you're just sabotaging over and over again. I get it. I've been there many a times, you know, and many a time. And in fact, from time to time, I still get there, you know. So I really broke down the process that I go through to get out of that. And so I made that. That was a 32-page ebook, and that's all free. And that one you can go straight to the website, which is strongerthansabotage.com, and you'll be able to find it there. So two links for whichever, you know, whatever you guys feel is most relevant and pertinent to you.
Awesome. Well, I will have those links with the recording that'll go across Facebook and different platforms and the podcast and everything. So people can definitely dive into your amazing work there. I can't wait to check out your free ebook. That sounds cool.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And awesome. So I just wanted to quickly run over some of the comments we got, and then just finish on maybe a final thought that you might have for us. I can never say people's names. Maria Daniel, I deserve success. Absolutely. Love it. And Vanessa, oh my God, yes. Thanks for clarifying this. What we believe often aren't our beliefs. They've been picked up in childhood. Yeah. And actually one of the things you said, Diego, I really loved, which was you don't need to analyze where they came from 30 years, you know, for 30 years on a couch, right? Like to just know, and I'm a sucker for that, because I love analyzing and pinpointing like where it came from and what, you know. And so sometimes that can take us away from actually moving forward. It can be a distraction. So to just simply know, hang on, this isn't in alignment. Don't know where it came from exactly, but just know it wasn't me. All right.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So that's cool. Stephanie says, feeling that with healthy eating. Yeah, so I think that was in relation to, just having that force field. I think that was when that comment came up, and that sabotage. So any words that you might have to say on that?
The one that would align with both Vanessa's comment here and also Stephanie's comment here is, you know, what you guys might be speaking about here is feeling, right? And feeling is an interesting one, because we so often hear, and this is one thing that really resonated for me in the moment when I had like the deepest depression and anxiety possible. And so I remember in that moment is when I realized, you know, I choose to believe which thoughts really empower me or which ones disempower me. You know, all these thoughts keep coming up in my head. But if I start really thinking about it, is like every one of my actions is born from some thought, right? And also alongside that it's born from a feeling as well. Like I might feel a certain thing, and then I go on and take an action, right? And so as I thought about that, I was like, well, where do those thoughts and feelings come? Because sometimes it's the thought that creates the feeling, or sometimes the feeling that creates the thought. It's like our mind is pretty wild. And so I thought about, well, where does that all that stuff come from? And to be honest, a lot of that is our programming. You know, I mean, the very reason that you and I are speaking the language we speak is because somebody else decided to put us down in a place where, you know, this was the language that we have to speak is English, you know? And so when it comes to some of those feelings is like, and some of those thoughts is there's a saying that it was Joseph Campbell, I believe. No, actually, I'm not really sure who said it. So I don't want to, but it says every feeling fully felt is bliss. And in my honest opinion, I believe it's not. You know, because I actually go against that, because I can tell you that, you know, I've helped people that they call me up on the worst night of their life. You know, I've had the conversation with people that are suicidal, and you know that if I tell them, oh, you know what, just feel through it, and they jump off the ledge, it's like that blood is on my hands. That's the, you know, it really hit it hard. I think like those thoughts and those feelings, some of them are in fact programmed, and you know, and I choose to decide which one of those thoughts and feelings I trust. And I really trust those ones that empower me, they energize me, they make me feel, you know, just like happier or productive or, you know, more connected. And then when I come from that perspective, then when I sense something that's off, you know, because I can tell you from my personal experience, when I was in that anxious and depression place, I was like trying to feel through it. And I was trying to feel through it for 3 years. You know, it was the worst. And it was like, I can't find my way out of this by just feeling through it. And there was a moment when I had to discipline myself and say, when that moment came in where it was like, hey, here's anxiety, your old buddy, old pal, I had to think to myself, you know what? No. Like today I'm going to do something different. And then I empowered myself, did the power stance, or did a lot of other exercises, which I do in coaching and some of my other programs. But yeah, I think we choose which ones we want to engage in.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And thanks for because I always love my mind being blown. You know, like a different perspective, something else that really challenged me, because when you said that quote, it was so beautifully articulated, right? You know, I was just like, I love that. And then you're like, actually no. And then I was like, whoa, yeah, I really appreciate you sharing a different perspective on that. So cool. And I know we've only got 3 minutes left. But Vanessa says, any tips on dealing with the imposter syndrome when starting a new business?
Yeah, Vanessa, like imposter syndrome really, you know, to some degree what happens is we feel like we have a spotlight on us. It's called the spotlight bias, actually. And I can share with you and you know, Vanessa, I nearly mentioned imposter syndrome earlier. Because when I was going through my own relationship up and down and I was teaching about relationships, I was like, well, I'm a guy that can't listen to my own advice, and I'm out here giving advice, and who am I really, you know? And I think when you're in that place, it's scary, right? And what you need to realize is like everybody's going through the ups and downs of life, and that's okay. You know, it's there was I think it was at Harvard that they had everybody close their eyes and they said, raise your hand if you believe that you deserve to be here at Harvard, and then they waited and they said, now raise your hand if you, and everybody keep your eyes closed. Raise your hand now if you believe that you shouldn't be here at Harvard because you got in because of some fluke. And then they said, now open your eyes. And nearly the entire room in this particular audience of Harvard students had their hand raised. You know, and so if we think about imposter syndrome is like, yeah, it might exist, but at the same time, like maybe that wasn't necessarily you. You know, maybe that was something that was also programmed in you. You know? And so perhaps your calling is to say, I can help people get through imposter syndrome. And there's a lot of people that would pay for that advice. I know I would have in that moment that I was in. You know, so definitely.
Absolutely. Oh, such a great answer. And we've got the minute countdown. So I know Frank says hey to you, and stay inspirational, buddy. I love it. So what I wanted to just quickly do is just acknowledge you, Diego, for the amazing man that you are, for the incredible work that you're doing. You are so appreciated, and it's been an honor to get to connect with you and dive into your mind. And also just, you know, over these past few years, just to dive into your wisdom and all that you share with such heart. It's really appreciated. And yeah, thank you so much for role modeling what it is to be an authentic leader who absolutely has everybody's best interests at heart. Not all of them are like that, so you are deeply appreciated.
I'm receiving everything you just gave me, and thank you as well. What you do is absolutely awesome, and a hello to everybody that's joined on, and thank you all for really believing in yourselves, because you know what, we're all in this together, to be honest. So I love you all.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, see you next time, Diego.
Bye.
Much love, everybody. Bye.